The Spurs are back. That's right. Spurs basketball is back. Yes, it's just preseason, but it's still Spurs hoops. So I know you are just as excited as I am. And I know we could have waited till the season to get the Spurs Digest pregame show started. However, we're almost at 2,000 subscribers. So why not give the people what they want and give them a preseason show? We got to love that the Spurs are going to be back. They're going to be taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder in just a few hours. So we got to get right into it, right? And we understand, listen, it's preseason, right? Most of the stars aren't even starting. We'll get into that. We'll get into all that stuff. But there are still things you want to watch because all basketball is worth talking about. And all basketball is good basketball. Welcome into Spurs Digest. I am Bryan Colbert Jr. here, one of your hosts for Spurs Digest. We appreciate y'all for subscribing, for commenting, for sticking with us. Man, we just got started and we are already skyrocketing to the moon. We love that. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers and we can still get that before the season. But the season was the goal. So make sure you subscribe because it's just the preseason. We got a little time. However, let's get right into everything that's going on right now. And first, we are going to start with, let's take a look at the Inactives. Charles Bassey coming off of a knee injury. He had an ACL tear last year, so he was still working on that. We got to imagine it's going to take some time. Zach Collins, David Duke Jr., Chris Paul, which is no surprise at all, right? A veteran just like Zach Collins, Devin Vassell, and then Victor Wembanyama, which of course, no surprise as well. We've seen what we need to see from Victor. He probably might not play too many preseason games at all in his career, especially not the first one. That first one's really for the young fellas, really for those guys to get out there. You don't see a lot of starters, role player guys actually getting out on that first preseason game. Is very rare, but maybe the second or third game, depending on how Pop wants to play it. He a vet, he an OG in the game. He will decide on that. But I think this is very interesting. I think not really many surprises on here, but Charles Bassey is somebody that I really cannot wait to see play. I mean, coming off the ACL tear is tough. But let me tell you, when I've watched Charles Bassey play, like you just see such great improvements every time he plays. And you can just see the potential for somebody that can really be that bruiser and that banger down there that kind of, scoot Victor up to that 4 from time to time. I don't know if Charles Bassey has the elite size to be a starting 5 at this point in his career. However, I do think as a rotational guy, he brings a lot of energy, can rebound, is strong, and it's just a matchup nightmare for a lot of guys. So I'm really excited to see him come back, but good to see the Spurs taking their time with getting him ready to go. So let's get right into what are some of those things that we're looking to see from this preseason game. Because again, we know Victor's not there. We know Dev's not there. We know we're not going to see Chris Paul. Those are those big, big headlines. However, there are still some great things that we could see as we watch this game. And that first thing is going to be these rookies. We have some great rookies over there. And of course, we got to start with Stephen Castle out of UConn, the number 4 overall pick. Now we got to see a little bit of what this guy could do in the summer league, right? He was able to play a few games. He hurt his wrist. He got a wrist injury, but I think in that game, he scored like 22 points against the Portland Trail Blazers and then injured his wrist and then didn't play the rest of the summer league. But a lot of times when you see a number 4 overall pick get a game like that, you really don't need to see much else. You remember Victor didn't play a lot of summer league either, just enough to show you what this kid was capable of. And I think 22 points in any NBA setting is very, very impressive. So I'm very excited to see what this guy can do because, yes, we have these veterans that we've added, but if you want to win now, like we've been talking about all offseason, right? Like you could tell when you add these guys like Chris Paul, when you add guys like Harrison Barnes, you're saying, listen, I want to win now. Stephen Castle is one of those guys that has to be able to play. So I'm hoping to see him get big minutes tonight, hoping to see that he's shrugged off that wrist injury. He's not on the inactives list, so we got to expect him to play. And when you get a guy number 4 overall, especially the guy that you pick after picking Victor the year before, you got to hope he's able to contribute. And I honestly think with this guy's size and athleticism, he could play right away. He's a 6'6" guard. He can score. He can play defense. He does all of the little things that Gregg Popovich likes to do. He can shoot. And just the guy that I want to see get a ton of minutes in the preseason. I want to see a ton of minutes all season because they're going to need him to play ball. Like they're going to need him to get off. And I'm actually really excited to see how he's utilized, especially when Chris Paul gets back in the mix, when Devin Vassell gets back in the mix. Like, will he be a starter? Gregg Popovich loves to switch things up, especially based off matchup. So, it could be very interesting to see what this guy can do, but he's going to get a bulk of these minutes in the preseason because the Spurs, they love throwing their guys into the G League. It's going to happen, and there's nothing wrong with that because the Spurs, just the way they've been able to develop players that definitely weren't picked that high, but be able to develop them within the G League, it's been pretty phenomenal. I mean, we didn't see Jeremy Sochan play G League at all, if I'm not mistaken. Like, he didn't have to play. He came right in and contributed. I can honestly see Castle being one of those guys that contributes right away too, and also just does very well. Like, he just seems one of those guys that's poised to have a really, really good rookie season. And then there's Harrison Ingram, a second round pick. You don't think you see too much NBA action from a guy like Harrison Ingram. However, he should be able to play in this preseason. You see a lot of guys are sitting out. This is the time for guys like these guys you actually put draft picks into to let them play. I'm actually excited to see what he can do. This is a guy that's going to be one of those 3-and-D guys in the NBA. He's going to have a career in this NBA because that 3-and-D is so valuable. No, he's not going to be a star. However, he's going to be somebody that can contribute. And if there's one thing the Spurs teams needs, is that guys that can space the floor but also guard the perimeter. And this is somebody that we're expecting to see do that. So I'm really excited to see what he does tonight, because this might be the most minutes we see him get for a really long time. He's going to spend a majority of his time in the G League. And as we said before, that's completely okay, because he is a guy that is going to be able to develop, have time, and there's not going to be a lot of rush to do that. Now, seeing these rookies play is going to be super, super exciting. That's definitely one of my top things I'm looking for. But the second thing might be the thing I'm most excited to see throughout the season, and that is Keldon Johnson. He has lost 10 pounds. I want to see what losing that weight does to his game, how that affects his role. You don't lose weight like that without your coach telling you, hey, you need to lose this weight. We're going to use you in this manner. We're not going to have you down on that block as much anymore. You're not going to be playing the floor as much. You're going to be more on that perimeter. You got to imagine there was that kind of conversation between Keldon and Pop. And Pop talked about it in his opening presser. He said, this is the best shape I've seen Keldon in years. I don't know how much weight he's lost, but he looks damn good. And for Popovich to say something like that, you have to imagine he has had plenty of talks with Keldon about this. And this was something maybe that him and this staff requested of Keldon. Keldon was averaging 17 points a game when he played majority at the 3 on the perimeter. That was the year that the Spurs were in the play-in. That was the year DeJounte Murray was the man at point guard, and then Keldon had to be that number 2 option, and he balled out. We've seen Keldon also average close to 20 points, over 20 points a game when he has had to be that number 1 guy. But that's kind of like moving roles, right? And that's also on a very bad Spurs team. That's a Spurs team that got the number 1 overall pick, right, the year before Victor was drafted. So not necessarily something you want to see from Keldon. You don't want him having to switch back and forth, even though he can, because he's so athletic, he's so strong, he's so good on the defensive end. You want to be able to give him that role that he can really grow in. And I feel like this is the time for him to do that. Yes, I know a lot of people look at Keldon and say he may be a trade chip. However, I just don't really see that happening with how valuable of a guy he is. And it's just not yet either, because I think especially last year, the way that Popovich kind of moved his role all around, I don't know how much value he really has as of yet. However, if you do want to get value from this guy, if you don't want to, pay him through his full contract, which I think his contract is actually not that bad, you have to let him get comfortable, make plays. And I think he's most comfortable on the perimeter. 15.7 is nothing to bat your eyes out. However, we know that Keldon's minutes were up and down so much last year. And we don't want to see that this year, right? We want to see a guy that's actually getting able to be out there and play. And I think he has a better chance of doing that on that perimeter, being that starting 3, I think is what we'll see, because, Jeremy Sochan has that power forward on lock. Jeremy Sochan is another guy that's very, very versatile. But I think if you're allowing these guys to be able to play in their roles and really understand their roles and not try to figure it out, which you understand. Pop had to figure out how all these pieces were going to fit around Victor. But I think that you see not a lot of guys left, that you kept a lot of this core. You haven't made any trades. I think they really like what they have in a guy like Keldon Johnson. So I cannot wait to see what he does when he is able to play on tonight against. So I cannot wait to see what Keldon Johnson does when he is able to play tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because again, guys like Victor, guys like Dev are not playing. They are not going to be able to play tonight. So that means there's a lot of buckets to be had. And you got to imagine Keldon probably not going to play a lot of minutes, 15, 10 minutes. But however, during that time he plays, the ball's going to be in his hands. He's going to get a chance to be able to show what he can do. And I cannot wait to see him in this sleek frame, because he's so athletic. He's so strong, and he is such a good scorer. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good his scoring ability really, really is. And honestly, the thing I think I'm most excited to see is the year 3 guys, the 2022 draft guys, because these are 3 first round picks we are looking at right here. And Jeremy Sochan and Malachi Branham and Blake Wesley. And I think all three guys not only have like really interesting storylines to follow throughout the season, all are pieces that can stay on this team and play with Victor and grow with Victor. So let's get into it, right? We have Jeremy Sochan first, where to me, I think he's grossly underrated. I think he is grossly underrated based off of just the things he can do. I don't know if I've seen a guy come in the league since his rookie year and be able to truly effectively guard the 1 through 5. I don't know how he's not an all defensive player. I truly do not, because of just how disruptive he is. He's not just disruptive like physically or on the court. He's also disruptive mentally. He's one of those guys that is going to get your best player frustrated. He's going to be talking to him. He's going to be bumping him. He knows how to just make those little subtle jabs at players on the court that just gets them riled up. And we've seen it all the time, right? Like I've seen it firsthand. Jeremy Sochan gets getting into altercation after altercation, but he doesn't like go overboard. Like maybe it's like you would say Draymond does. Like he doesn't take it across the line, but he definitely is that like heartbeat and soul of like a playoff team. When you look at playoff teams, they have a guy like Jeremy Sochan. And a lot of times, they're not nearly as good. They're not nearly as capable of scoring. They're not nearly as capable of hitting the open shot. And yes, Jeremy Sochan has been a little up and down, but also, just like Keldon, his role has been changed so much. I mean, he was a starting point guard at one point. He was a starting power forward at another, starting 3 at the other. So like to have that kind of versatility, a guy that can truly play the 1 through 5 and guard the 1 through 5 in today's NBA, I think is extremely valuable. And to me, I think I see him taking maybe the second, surprisingly not, the second biggest leap out of these three guys, believe it or not. I truly think that he is going to have himself a season this year. And I think a lot of that has to do with being able to play alongside Victor. Like he's going to do a lot of that dirty work. He's going to be that muscle for Victor Wembanyama when he's having to carry the rest of the load, the offensive load. I think a guy like Jeremy Sochan really helps out a lot. And the next guy up for me, Malachi Bell. Malachi Bell to me is somebody that looked like he was maybe going to be the better out of the three at one point, especially like coming from his rookie year. He was started. He was asked to do a lot of things, guarding the second best guy on the court a lot of times, kind of playing that like Derek White role, but very, very efficient mid-range guy, very, very efficient guy he looked like. And then again, with the Spurs team that was really trying to find their identity, trying to figure out what was going on, I think Blake Wesley's role kind of got diminished a little bit. I think we thought we were going to see a big jump in year 2, and like he played well, but it wasn't the jump we were expecting. But I think that changes. I think that changes when Blake Wesley actually gets the time to play in an established role as well. And I think we see what that might look like more in preseason. I think it's going to be tough to get minutes with this guard play. I really think it's going to be tough, but Malachi can make a name for himself through this. And he could also be like, he has 6-man written all over him too at times, right? Like he's somebody that could come in and score in bunches, impact the game. And I love, again, his mid-range ability, which is such a lost art. But you look at a guy like Jordan Clarkson, right? Somebody that's strong, athletic, decent height, like, 6'5", but can shoot that mid-range and keep defenders honest. When you're able to pull that three, also drive, but also pull up in that mid-range game, I think it's so valuable to have. So another guy, Malachi Bell, I'm really looking to see. But guys, I got to be honest with y'all, believe it or not, my most important of those three to me is Blake Wesley. I remember doing the draft call when we had drafted him, and we were doing the live stream, the live show for the Spurs, and we got Blake Wesley. And I was just so ecstatic. I couldn't hide how excited I was, because I remember watching Blake Wesley in college. I remember seeing this, undersized guy as far as like weight, but very, very long arms. He reminded me of a young DeJounte Murray. Somebody that was just so fast, that cared about the defensive plays, but could also fill it up, could also take it to the hoop, could also use his handle and his length and his insane speed to do things that a lot of other guards aren't able to do. And this is like God-given gifts that Blake Wesley had. I knew he'd be a challenge. He was the last of the picks of this first round, but I had a feeling like, oh, this kid's going to be special. He might be the best out of all three. And then he hurt himself. He had a really bad injury and they set him back, right? Last year was like a rookie year for him where he was really trying to get comfortable. But again, maybe the most inconsistent role of all for Blake Wesley. Like he had to play in the G League at times. He wasn't on the court as much, trying to just figure out how to get comfortable, how to get in there. And I truly think this is the year. This is like his jump. Like he is going to take the biggest jump out of the three guys, because I think he's going to be utilized differently. I think he is locked in. One of those guys like DeJounte Murray, that was the difference, I think, between him and DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray had like extreme levels of confidence, right? Like coming out the gate, he had it through like middle school and high school, that extreme level of confidence. I don't think you make it out of the places DeJounte made it out of without that level of confidence. But Blake Wesley, I feel like having such a heavy injury and, playing on a team where it's like, listen, even though you're a first round pick, like you're going to have to scratch and crawl for everything you get on this team, every bit of minutes. And then like, I just felt like maybe his confidence wavered a little bit, but I feel like his confidence is back now. He's gotten to play with guys, veteran guys, Chris Paul. He's gotten to like practice with these guys. You heard Chris Paul say it during the media press conferences. You heard Harrison Barnes say it. You've heard all these other players say it. Yo, the hardest work in the gym has been Blake Wesley. He's been at every training camp. He's been at he's been at every open gym. He's been at every practice that we've held as players. He's been, just stuck to us. Like Chris Paul said it, like he's everywhere Chris Paul is at, and he just wants to learn. He just wants to get better. And I truly think Blake Wesley has the talent and the skill set to be a very good guard in this league, And we're only going to have Chris Paul for so long, right? So he's here to groom these guys. He's here to help Tre Jones get better, but he's here to help this first round pick and Blake Wesley get better. And you've already seen that relationship start to grow, that mentorship start to grow. And what better person to teach you how to play the game of basketball, to teach you how to play under a guy like Gregg Popovich than somebody like Chris Paul. So guys, these are things that are just so exciting to see, man. I cannot believe Spurs basketball is finally here. Yes, it's just a preseason show. It's just a preseason game. However, to do a pregame show for the preseason is just so dope and it's so exciting. And we're going to keep making content for you guys. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a post-game show as well. We're going to watch this game. I cannot wait. I know you guys cannot wait to see your Spurs out there. And this is going to be a very, very exciting year, very intriguing year. Yes, we know there's still things to get done. Yes, we know things are going to take time. However, there is reason for optimism for Spurs fans. So I hope you guys are so excited. I hope you guys got your popcorn ready. I hope you guys are just excited as I am to watch these Spurs get on that court and just see basketball again. Just see basketball. Because you know one thing about Spurs basketball. There's going to be quality basketball. It's going to be well-coached basketball. And I cannot wait to see it. I cannot believe how lucky we are to still have Gregg Popovich coaching. I cannot believe that we're going to be able to see Victor play his second year. Just imagine how good Victor is going to be. There's so many exciting things about the season. And it starts tonight with the preseason game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I am your host, Bryan Colbert. This is Spurs Digest. Remember to subscribe. Remember to hit that little bell so you get notified every time we post these amazing videos. I cannot wait to keep y'all going with all of these pregame shows for the Spurs. I cannot wait to just keep doing this and just having a lot of fun with you guys and just having more things to talk about because it's here now. We got actual basketball to talk about, guys, and I cannot wait. So make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit that little doorbell so you can stay up to date with everything we got going on. I am Bryan Colbert Jr. and this is Spurs Digest. This is your first of many pre-game Spurs Digest show. I'm out.